Let me try that again. It would really help if I unmuted myself. Like, I haven't done these live streams in a little while, and I'm just about to talk, and then I see the mute button still up, and I go to unmute myself. As I go to press the unmute, it automatically unmutes me. So I press the button, which remutes me again, and then I'm about to talk, and then all of a sudden I have to unmute myself again. All right, so we're off to a fantastic start this morning already, as it is. It's not even a toy stream today, so I brought some friends on to discuss the second season of House of the Dragon. Now, I don't know if this is going to become a tradition on this channel or not, because we did this at the end of season 1 as well, and I brought at least part of the same crew back to have the same conversation again. And I've been getting the same question about, hey, Ken, where are the TKO live streams lately? And I just keep answering the same thing. There's a lot of live streams out there right now. I drop in, I see Ozstradamus Toyz in the live chat. I drop in on his live streams a lot. I just think there's a lot of content out there already that this may not have to be a regular thing anymore. Now, if time permits it, then maybe we'll be able to do this regularly again in the future. But I know I've been getting that question, so I think I'll just address it up front. Otherwise, let's hope people enjoyed this particular season. Or if you didn't, drop your thoughts in the live chat anyway, as long as you do it respectfully. So, all right. Well, last time we did this live stream, I had this individual on. So let's bring him right back on screen and get some of his thoughts about how this second season of House of the Dragon went. Brick.
Just kidding. Hey,
Yeah.
The children of the forest are messing with the stream. How's it going, Ken? And thank you for having me back to talk House of the Dragon.
Well, you and Paynes both know that I'm a stickler for like smooth starts, good detail, and everything going off without an absolute without any hitch whatsoever. So when I have to stutter right away and like manually press the buttons and search for, I couldn't even find where my intro music was.
Well, that's perfect because we're talking about Westeros and nothing goes according to plan in Westeros. So,
okay,
thematically perfect.
So you've been to a small council meeting, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I've been to the small council meeting. I've seen the little people, and it's all just chaotic at every level of Westeros. So,
well,
if you want to talk about it,
if you want to hit stream to audience right now, feel free. If you want to hit.
Sure. I wasn't sure. It's always confusing to do that.
And I'll ask Aaron.
It's cool. I don't. It's always weird to do mid. But hello, everybody, and good to see you. Thank you. You mentioned the history. I'll just say this is the 2-year. This Wednesday will be the 2-year anniversary of my channel, and it was 2 years ago that was it 2 years ago or a year ago? I forget now. I think it was.
We did the wrap up stream. We did it in fall of 2022, so almost 2 years
now. Wow, so that would have been 2 years ago that that's wild to think that we had that gap between the show House of the Dragon and now, and then to think that you and I did this live thing 2 years ago. Anyways, so this is perfect. I'm really glad that this worked out. On
the last time you were on, you weren't even like an experienced streamer yet. Now you've done more live streams than I have. I was coming in and be like, "It's okay, Brick. I'll coddle you in on this." And all of a sudden, now you're just like, "Ken, did you know StreamYard can do this?" I don't know. I'm not. Anyway.
Well, thank you for the coddling. Let's. Who else we got today?
Thank you for the recoaching. Now that you are the master. Anyway, so backstage, this individual happened to be free as well, and he's got some thoughts on House of the Dragon. So Aaron from Payne's Toy Samples, come on in.
Charlie,
you're the next contestant on The Price is Right.
I guess I am. What do I win?
You win. You can hit stream to audience as well.
Okay. So. I think I'll.
You get to move through life and think that you're going to be the king.
Yeah,
you get that yanked away.
Exactly. Isn't that how that works?
Yeah.
There's apparently an iron chair with swords in it that people like to that people are fighting over, is what I heard.
Ooh. Yeah, you know what? Westeros is Westeros. Let's be honest.
Yes.
There's a lot of similarities that I'm already seeing in season 2 to Game of Thrones. There's a lot of characters that you could see kind of fit the roles of certain characters in that other aspect.
Yeah.
You got Lord Larys, who is definitely a Littlefinger kind of character.
That's what they're going for, it seems like.
You could see those little things, And of course, the Boy King, that never works out.
I'm excited to have you today because last time, Ken, and all of us were on, I kind of named that generational trauma, and 'cause
Yeah.
so much of that is here. So I really would love to hear your thoughts on the role of mental health and trauma in
Yeah.
in Game of Thrones, in the politics of Game of Thrones.
There's definitely enough of it there. That's for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got so many people playing each other. You can almost see the manipulation waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Brick, I am going to wish you a happy 2-year anniversary on your channel.
Thank you.
Yep. And Paynes, I'm going to wish you a happy rewatch of House of the Dragon when you finish the stream and go and say, what did I miss? I had to wish you a happy something.
I watched it yesterday and the day before again to rewatch it. Because, you know, when I'm watching it, I got through most until the end of part of episode 7 and 8. And I was just like, okay, I remember enough that I swing by.
Yeah. Well, are there any like opening thoughts anyone wants to drop in just so we can, if there's anything you got to get off of your chest?
No, I'm enjoying kind of the propaganda aspect of what Rhaenyra's doing, especially, you know, feeding the people, messing with them, and then kind of you can see that Melis is kind of playing both sides a little bit in that way. But it's kind of nice to see that real life mirroring art kind of thing.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. Well, what about you?
I got
Brick?
something. I know you're paused. I'll just say, so let's talk about who you had on the thumbnail. You had a couple of other people. You had Kelly, right?
I had Kayla, but I should probably say that. Yes.
Yeah.
Kayla sends her. Thank you, Brick. See, this is what I mean by you are the more experienced live stream person right now, and I'm kind of like the sporadic. There's the live button. And 2 years ago, I was trying to be the expert.
Good.
But yes, that's good. Thank you so much. Oh my God, I almost forgot that. Kayla sends her regards. She was gonna be on for the reunion stream here, but she came down with a bit of an illness the other day, and about 40 minutes before the stream, she said she couldn't make it. But she says, please make all the hot D references as much as you can, because that was the first thing she said. She'd never been live before, and I put her on camera, and she says, hello, let's talk some hot D. First thing she ever said on camera on any stream ever. Let's talk some hot D. And I was taking a sip of something, and I had to stop myself from gagging, right? Because for whatever reason, I didn't make that connection just yet. You'd think it'd be the most obvious thing in the world, but anyway. Kelly,
I mean, she did get a little bit of that this year because you have Aemond running around naked at one point.
Yes, in the brothel, yes. And that the third episode, something like that. Yeah. Kelly sends her regards as well. She might be able to jump on later, but she admittedly didn't quite get to the end of the last episode. And then she said she's at the beach. She has a stream later today with Big Boss Man's daughter, Lacey, but she's running behind at the beach with her family right now. So, yeah. On
that note, I just so I want to acknowledge that, like, oh man, what a bummer to miss those two, because that was us for last time 2 years ago. But also this season, what I want to get off my chest, I guess, this season and basically the whole show really has so much to do with women in Westeros. And it's just ironic to me that the two women who were going to be out here to talk with us couldn't make it. But I'm hoping to make sure that we really do spend a good amount of time, because I think so much of season 2 was really kind of this beautiful arc between what happened in the character arch between what happened in season 1 and season 2 with Allison and Rhaenyra. And so I just want to highlight that. And it's fun and awesomely awkward.
If they were both here, one can be Team Rhaenyra, one could be Team Allison. So I don't know who they sympathize with, but yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is,
I just wanted to hear their perspective.
There's definitely something with Allison kind of getting a comeuppance toward the end. You know, where she's kind of basically told all of your scheming and planning is now useless and meaningless. So she just runs away, and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. I wonder how that's going to play out. Have either of you read Fire and Blood?
No.
No.
Yeah. People always ask me if I've read the books, and I've read. I mean, I know you both read the main Song of Ice and Fire series. No. Okay.
Fake fan.
All right. That's the one that I've read, right? Is the main 5 books. But Brick, as I was showing you, I do have that big tome called The World of Ice and Fire that somebody bought me back in 2016. And that has the history of all the Targaryen kings in there. So there's like a few pages on each one. So I had to learn, or not had to, but I learned through about the this particular. There's about 15 to 17 pages in there about the old King Jaehaerys, Viserys's reign, Aegon, like the current Aegon's reign, and kind of like what happens at the end. So the Dance of the Dragon is discussed in decent detail there. So when people ask me, have you read the source material? I'm like, I've read the source material source book that isn't the actual story, but it tells me all the names of the dragon. It tells me all the big battles. But you don't see them play out. They just go, the battle of blah, blah, blah played out like this, and these lives were lost. So I'm like, okay, so I do have something. Yes. Anyway.
Okay, so can you clarify then? There was also the what is it? Fire and
Blood.
So that is specifically around this period that we're seeing, the history of the Targaryens.
There's a couple of stories in there, in the Fire and Blood book, but one of the main books in there is the Dance of the Dragons.
Gotcha. So it's a focus on the Targaryens, written sort of as a in-world history. Sorry, yay! Clearly as but clearly biased based on the author. Okay, cool. That makes sense. And the one you got that you were showing me was that also meant to be sort of in universe and written by the Maesters?
Yes, it's written very much that way, but it's also what do you call it? It's basically like an encyclopedia. Yeah. So it starts with like, here's what Westeros is,
so
right?
It's a Bible for this.
It's basically a Bible, right? Yeah. Here's Aegon's conquest and how he took the throne. Here's all the kings that followed him after all the way up until Robert's Rebellion.
Right.
And then here's all the different regions, like the North, the Reach, the Riverlands, right? Yeah. Here's Essos. So it's kind of like, it's basically meant as a catch-all encyclopedia. So if you haven't read the source material, this is kind of like that next best thing that is still source material, but it's a summary of the source material. So when people ask me, have I read it? I just go, I have
Cliff
that.
Notes.
So it's
the old Cliff Notes.
It's the Cliff Notes, but it's like it's like something like 300 or 400 pages worth of Cliff Notes.
But let me ask this just to clarify: is it meant to be in universe?
Yes, it's all in universe.
All of that. I just want to say that
it's you're a Star Wars person, so that question is important to you about what's EU versus what's main universe.
No,
so you're a Star Wars guy.
It's actually not that. Well, I get that analogy, but it's actually more Tolkien. So back in the day, I remember reading the sort of like encyclopedia of Tolkien's world, but it wasn't in universe and it wasn't necessarily sanctioned by Tolkien. So and the reason I just think it's brilliant what they're doing, aside from like obviously trying to make as much money from GRRM as much as possible as work, but I think it's in theme with the shows that we've been watching. This notion of like history and power and world building, right? Like this bigger thing that's like it's bigger than any one character. And so for the longest time, we locked in on Jon and Daenerys, and then it took people maybe a little bit of adjusting to realize, wait, this is like generations before. And so I just really appreciate what whoever is it, Warner Brothers and Martin are doing with this, the way they're handling it. And I think it keeps it sort of in brand and in theme, because so much of season 2 is about, really reminding us to think about people's different perspectives, where they're coming from, where the conflict originated. So that's why I ask. I'm curious.
So
and I definitely
what I'll say about the World of Ice and Fire. There are interviews out there where George Martin is asked to compare it to Tolkien's Silmarillion.
Yes.
Okay. If that answers your question about what it's supposed to be. Having said that, it's a bit more user friendly. The Silmarillion is text and text and text and text, right? This is like this World of Ice and Fire is a little bit of story or a little bit of summary, and then pictures, and then charts, and then pictures, and then charts of all the dragons, and then pictures again, and then text, and then picture of the king. Like it's just things like that. So anyway, I was waiting for the chat to file in, and it looks like people have filed in. So the big donut next to my name that had a big 0 next to it is now gone. So thank you for that, Oz, for showing up. I am representing.
I'm watching it on my phone, so you should have had to.
Oh, okay. There you go. All right. It wasn't actually a donut. I just make those kinds of jokes. That's just what
Yeah.
I do. Yes, there was a number next to the name that was a single digit. That's now a double digit. Yay! Not that stats matter. Not that it's YouTube or anything. Oz representing your shirt. Yes, hot D baby. Gazz. Yeah, I know you're not really someone who follows the Game of Thrones universe or anything, but if we ever do a Mega Force stream, if I ever get down to finishing that movie, I know who I'm gonna call. Thanos Copter is here. Brick Something is celebrating 2 years on the tube. Let's see. We got Matthew Matson. Hello. Thought his laundry was in the background. Only makes sense same time when it's done. I'm not actually sure what that. I might be.
That was in
something.
reference to my laundry that just finished and chimed.
Oh, okay. All right. There we go. I was wondering what that was. All right. Thank you, Matthew, for jumping on. We got Bridazel here in the chat giving us a hello. We got Scuba Pete, who I just saw not too long ago at Joe Fest. And Tony's Figs is here as well. Thank you for resharing my mask photo the other night on social media. Oh, TJC made it. Thank you. Good to see you here. All right. Cool. So there are people who want to hear us talk about Hot D. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we're not talking about that the whole show because that might get a little awkward.
So I don't know if I said it earlier, but KJ from Black Genghis is going to try to join us as well. He said he'll be a little bit late, but he will chime in. Well, if nothing else, let's talk about this part of House of the Dragon because I know a lot of people had polarizing thoughts on this. The whole setup at Harrenhal with Damon going there, claiming the castle, and he's got Alice Rivers kind of like talking in like, oh God, I don't know if she's talking in riddle or what, but she kind of spends the whole season either trying to help him or gaslight him. I'm not really sure. Which one of you wants to start this one off?
Well, I think with Damon, you definitely can see that his path is kind of strewn with old memories or even imagined situations because you're not really clear on that when he's having those kind of what it seems like a flashback, whether he's talking to his brother or whether he's just having moments of you see some nightmare stuff, but you can definitely see that he is struggling. And I think finally when he has that one last flashback that I can recall was sitting next to his brother, and his brother drops the crown and tells him how heavy it is. I think that's when he kind of gets that moment of clarity, like, oh, maybe I don't really want that.
All right.
But you see this path from him going to, I'm going to go kill this, I'm going to tell these guys to go kill basically my nephew. And he somewhere along the line that got messed up, and his relationship with Rhaenyra has always been kind of shaky anyway.
That's what I think everything's shaping up to with the nephew thing, right? Everyone's waiting for Aemond versus Damon.
Yeah.
You got the more experienced fighter, and you got the one with the dragon. Right.
And they are two sides of the same coin. I mean, they really walk a very similar path. And I remember saying, I rewatched a little bit of you and you and I 2 years ago, and that came up and sort of talking about how Aemond was like almost emulating Damon for the longest time, complete with like growing up and having his same look, with the exception of the eye patch, and kind of approaching life in the same way of being just super aggressive and super self-centered. But it's like Aemond and Damon, they're like anagrams of each other. Like clearly there's this fun link of the fates going on. But I will say that like to bring it back to the Alice of it all, like I was super excited when I saw her. At first I was kind of like, oh no, is this another, what was her name? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. The fire witch who kind of guided.
Oh, the red woman.
Melisandre.
Yeah. So with Melisandre, at first I was like, oh no, this is all going to feel too familiar. And like we're treading the same story territory and character territory. But at the end of the day, it was like, I had to slap myself and go like, no, that's all of this. I mentioned earlier, generational trauma. So much of this is like stories of cycles and people going through people, meaning the people of Westeros, going through a similar cycle. And hopefully each time Like if this is the flat circle, that's hopefully slowly there's some progress upward to the point where they can actually be ready to fight off winter, right? That's the end goal.
Yeah.
Right. So when I look at her, I'm like, oh, she has a similar role to play in guiding someone. Melisandre was a little bit misguided in who that someone was. But I think Alice is like, okay, I need to help this person realize what's up. So she's the one who brings him like the vision of the eventual rise of what's his name? The winter, the king. Oh God, I'm so getting old.
The Night's King. The Night's King.
The Night Kings. Thank you. But at the end of the day, what I was really excited for, I was like, wait, well, like, will they at least give us some kind of clue as to who she is or who she's working for or with? And I love that there was that little tease of the Children of the Forest in the end, where you see that little character by the tree. And I love that because I'm very much into tying everything together, not in like a superficial cheesy way, but like I like the idea that we are now seeing more of the connective tissue between House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones.
At first, I kind of wondered if she was actually, something real or if it was something in his head. You kind of get she kind of just pops up and there she is. And you're just like, okay, where did she come from?
She's there in the kitchens or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, it's one of those moments where you're kind of like, is she actually there? Or is this Damon?
Is he hallucinating? So, yeah.
And you're never really clear on it at all because there's never really any clarity on that.
Well, Kelly, except for other people in the world acknowledge that she is a thing and she's a person.
Kelly asked me whether she was real or not, and I'm just like, I think she is. I feel like she is. Wait, I don't know, and I actually have to go look it up. So, yeah, he sees the vision of Daenerys and the 3 dragons being born and all that. So, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people didn't like those Harrenhal scenes taking too long and taking too much. I understood why they were there, but it did feel like they would linger too long for a minute here and 2 minutes there, and yeah.
Can I just ask about that? Because I think that ties into some of like, maybe I've heard some criticism of even the climax of season 2. When people say like it lingers, or especially when you're saying between Allison and Damon, is it because it's talky? Like, is it that people want to see some kind of action?
It may be that. I mean, because
the pace slows down. The pace slows down every time those.
But that's and so that's a tricky thing when you're managing like a show that clearly has dragons in the title, and clearly we're going to see people burn and big huge beasts and stuff. But then so much of the real action of this is the notion of like kind of the Game of Thrones, like this idea of like larger power struggles. And then again, as I've pointed out, like there is an end game, and the end game is winter is coming, and will we as a people be ready for it? Yeah. And so on the one hand, yes, there's dragons and there's people fighting. On the other hand, there's very much this like preparing individual characters to play their role, helping people understand their role, or, and so some of that comes with dialogue and conversation, and we see these smaller intimate moments. Like if we go back to season 1, there's so much just in the conversations between Alicent and Rhaenyra. There's so much between the conversations / sexy times between Rhaenyra and Damon, right? There's so much between the conversation between Damon and Viserys that like, it's a funny thing for me. I love those. I want to see that drama. On the other hand, I also do like to see dragons burn people. So it's this funny balance that this kind of show has to strike.
Well, and the thing is that without that, you don't really have development of the characters. And if you're really going to get people involved in a show, you have to give them a reason to like this character or dislike this character. And if you're not willing to do that, then it's just popcorn fluff. And you're not going to have any stamina to stay for very long, and your ratings will start dropping because people will get bored.
Anyway, that's a meta conversation. You're right, Aaron. And that's what I wonder about, because I see that in other nerd spaces too, where it's like, on the one hand, we do want to see whiz bang spectacle. Yeah. On the other hand, then people are like, well, this is boring. I don't care about these people. And it's this fun thing that all these creatives really have to do in a landscape where we have a lot of choices. You don't have to watch House of the Dragon because Rings of Power is right around the corner, or you know, on Netflix there's this great show. What is it called? Mystery of Erebos, Dragon Prince. So like, we're not lacking in fantasy. We're not lacking in genre. So I don't know. I've always been intrigued by how they do that. Anyways.
Okay. Cool. No, thank you all for your thoughts on that. And before we jump to this peak scene, we went from the dragging, like when people said was a bit slow, even if it was important, to kind of like the action part of the season. But before we do that, we got Black Genghis, KJ.
Hey, KJ.
Hot and heavy.
Good to see you, man.
Good morning. How is everybody? Or good afternoon.
Doing well.
Thanks for showing up on short notice here, KJ. I know that I only sent you the link a short time ago, and you're just like, I'll be there at some point. And God, I was trying to do this without wrestling references, but as soon as you showed up on camera, your tag team partner did not want to be outdone.
Right.
You can guess. Well, I mean, you've got multiple tag team partners, but this is the tag team partner that I mostly associate you with, and he actually just walked off the screen. But I'm sure he'll be back. Oh, he's there. He's back.
What's up, Tony?
What's up, Tony?
All right.
I think you're muted, or your mic isn't working.
You're muted, sir, or your mic's.
I'm the partner. Let's go. I'm the partner.
There he is.
I'll try to get your Tony's Figs link on the description below. Because I put everyone's links in the description below earlier. Yeah, I'll make sure I get all that updated. So, I mean, we got a full house now. Like, I wasn't sure if who was going to make it today and who wasn't. But all right, who wants to talk about some dragons?
I would love to, but actually, before we start, before context, since Aaron and I spent a little time and you spent a little time talking about our background, I'd love to hear kind of like where you all are coming from. Are you readers? Are you watchers? Do you watch Game of Thrones? All that. And I know Tony already dropped it. And he's like, I watched this whole beep. So I'm just curious. Let's take a couple seconds to hear from y'all.
Sure. Very quickly, I have the books and I've read some of the books, but I have not finished the books. Like, I'm like in the middle of book 2, basically. And there's already vast differences between those books and Game of Thrones. I made it a point not to read Fire and Blood after I read way too much of the wiki to be like, this is dope. So there's like way more that I know that I wish I didn't. I might as well just read the book and it would have been better. I talk to Ken about this all the time. I'm supremely let down by season 7 and 8 of Game of Thrones. And I just feel as long as House of the Dragon can do better than those last 2 seasons, then I'm fine. And so far, so good.
Cool.
About you, Tony?
Yeah, man. I wasn't watching it. I caught up with Game of Thrones from when it was already over. I was an ex-girlfriend called me over to hang out. She was watching it. I'm like, yeah. She's like, have you watched this yet? No. She got me all into it, and I'm like, oh, I binge watched that damn thing, you know. And I got my dad into it. He binge watched it, and I loved it. And yeah, some seasons were like, damn, I wanted something else to happen, but it was great, you know.
Where are my dragons?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, okay, I know. So House of the Dragon. Okay, we're going to Targaryen people, right? So okay, I got to follow this and check it out. And it's been crazy and good. And some people you think who ain't going to be vicious, they're vicious as hell. And I'm like, oh my God. And just the incest running amok.
It's, you know what the thing is though, that's really how, if you go back in history, that's a lot of how royal families were.
Yeah, they kept
there was a lot of incestuous behaviors. It's not uncommon.
Get together.
I mean, because the original Game of Thrones is based on War of the Roses.
Yeah.
Very loosely, but there's some similarities.
Jeez.
So I don't understand the obsession with incestuous behavior, but whatever.
God.
So Tony, I'm gonna just gloss on the an ex-girlfriend came over, but let's fast forward to the part books. Were books a part of your whole thing with this, or not really?
Mine, no, just there's the films, just the shows, the video, yeah,
cool,
just the show, and I got hooked, and the spectacular acting with Dinklage especially. It's like, oh my goodness, you know, and then the crazy betrayals and all that stuff. I was all in.
Love it. Okay, cool.
Well, this battle, I guess, is considered. Oh, by the way, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen the show. I should have said this at the beginning, not 30 minutes in. But this isn't going to be a spoiler-heavy
30 minutes in.
stream. So
It's gonna be spoilerific.
Or spoiler.
this is what I mean about not knowing how to do live streams anymore. I'm just kind of like,
There is
That's
no
right.
way.
You'll get back into it.
Like-
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Just
It's like riding a bike. You'll be fine.
yeah, riding. You mean like riding a bike, falling down, and saying, "Where the hell are my damn training wheels?" Yeah, that's what. Yeah. Okay. This battle. I mean, like I said, I didn't have an exact order of questions. I just figured we would just flash up some images and talk about whatever happens to be the big memory of the season. I think a lot of people will say that this episode 4 Rook's Rest battle
Yeah.
stole the show for a lot of people because, I mean, we didn't get to see dragons fight dragons in Game of Thrones. I don't think. I know when the Night's King got his ice dragon, he breathed the ice, but I don't think the dragons actually squared off, unless I'm mistaken.
Not really.
I don't
no.
believe so. Not
Right.
really.
And then at the end of season 1, you see Vhagar kind of take out Lucerys's dragon Arax very quickly, right?
Dude.
But this sort of like dragon duel, a true dance between the two, that's not just a chase and a death, where it's actually like, okay, both sides have a chance and this is going to come to blows. This is the first time we really got to see this.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So,
and
yeah.
you add
Go
in Aemon taking his shot.
Yeah.
I mean, you add in that little, I'm going to take my shot and I'm going to take care of this problem. But of course, that doesn't go to plan because Kristen shows up. So,
Yes.
I mean,
Yes,
you,
you mean at
you
the-
knew what he was
before.
doing with that sword while it was out. It was not out to.
He was going to
check
kill
on-
his brother. Yes.
Yeah. He was
Yes.
like, I'm done.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Whew.
Well, I'll just say two things. First off, it was like it's a roller coaster because I was really excited to see Aegon get smashed. Like just in terms of that kid's arrogance and
Yeah.
I was like, oh great, like he's making all sorts of mistakes.
Big time.
But I will say, and I was excited to see Rhaenys kind of do her thing. Like we got to remember that Rhaenys, and this comes back to what I was saying earlier. Hello, boys. But the women that kind of undergird this whole story, right? She was actually supposed to be queen. Like she got passed over because a bunch
Queen
of
who never
dudes-
was.
Yep, bunch of dudes said, "No, we don't want her to replace Jaehaerys because we don't want a woman." And then they chose Viserys. So like, I remember seeing that in season 1, going like, "Oh man!" Like thinking about what happens later with Daenerys, and then and Aegon is he third or Jon Snow? Like all of that stuff was like, wow, this stuff is really like in this story as being this impediment for Westeros just to get its shit together. And so it obviously comes up again later with the way Alicent is treated in this thing. So coming back to Rhaenys, it was just like, yeah, I was so excited. Like, good, she's gonna get in there, she's gonna do something. And so I was super excited to see her do her thing with Aegon, and then come straight down and be heartbroken when she gets taken out. But she goes out like a boss, and she's like, I know what's happening. I played my role, and she goes with it.
Yeah.
And so to the queen.
Yeah. Maelys was trying to give
Queen
the
who
best
never was.
she could too. Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Maelys
mean,
didn't go out like a sucker. But Aegar, way
she
too much.
basically, when they were
One-on-one.
trying to decide who to send to Rook's Rest, she was literally like, "You must send me, my queen." Like she took the challenge. She's like, "It's got to be me for this one."
I'm
Right,
going.
because there weren't too many fighting dragons other than Maelys. Damon was off doing his thing. They don't want Rhaenyra to go on her own, and Jaehaerys has no like real fighting experience, right? And his dragon's not going to be able to stand up to Vhagar or Sunfire, right? I'm sure he can chase down some Kristen Cole soldiers, but to actually take on one of the big dragons, Maelys was really the only one that made sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, at least at that point, right? Because we'll get to the other parts later.
Well, we can keep talking about that, but there is this, right? This scene at the end. Amond, you've gone
Ooh.
done effed up now. Thank you for chasing.
Yeah,
And we can keep
exactly.
going on about the Rook's Rest battle, but because we are talking about fighting
What's
dragons.
up?
What did you all think of the lead up to this and the revelation of like the notion of looking at bastards and whoever else to become dragon riders?
It was interesting to see that they were trying to make it less about a lineage of royalty.
Mhm.
But you
Mm.
could see that, because it seems like the dragons choose their rider. So the dragons make the choice. It's not, oh, well, just because you're of this blood, you're going to get this opportunity. It's more the dragon chooses its rider.
Like
And
we
you
saw
see a
dozens
lot
of
of that.
people.
Yeah, we saw lots of people get burned up and die because the dragon didn't want them. I just found it interesting because you see all the foreshadowing earlier in the season for the characters that get to become the eventual new dragon riders. Because you're like, why are
Come on,
they
Aaron,
focusing
thanks.
on this person? So that's this. You get that nice little nugget here and there throughout the season where they kind of sprinkle these characters in, and then all of a sudden, oh, okay, now it makes sense why this person was there.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
we lose Tony. That's okay.
I'll talk him back in.
All
Yeah, everything that Aaron was saying. It's interesting that it's the dragons that are democratizing the writing process, right? So it's going to be really interesting, and we're going to get some time to know these new dragon riders in season 3. So whatever goes down will have an impact, right? Because George R.R. Martin is still telling a story, as is Ryan Condal, and everyone else has been doing an amazing job with these past 2 seasons of House of the Dragon. So it's not like these are just going to be like random cameos, more quails, more of these little birds, no, it's like I can totally see. I'm going to call it Ulf. That dude's a goner, but he's going to go out like a G. Why? Because he's the most fun, and that's how George gets down. Who's the most fun? Who's the comic relief? Who's the jester?
Sure.
That dude.
Yeah.
Ulf. I like Ulf. Team Ulf got the shirt roasted. I can already see that shit happen. Pardon me. No swears. I'm a guest on your channel. So.
Yeah.
Well,
It's all good,
I
man.
like
Don't worry about
the
it.
one that stands there in the pit with the dragon and just screams at him to come get him.
Oh,
That
yes.
took some balls. I'm sitting there in front of him.
Yes.
I
Hammer.
honestly,
Hammer.
if I was standing in front of that, I would not have gone, come get me.
Yes. Sorry, his name is Hugh Hammer, but somebody as a joke referred to him as MC Hammer, and I almost said MC Hammer on this stream. It's just yeah, he's standing in front of the dragon going, "Can't touch this." It's like, yeah.
Y'all could only see us
that's what
here,
it's-
but my footwork was dope. Real quick. Okay, go ahead.
That's all. That's what I had. Hey, I'm letting you gents carry the conversation. Apparently, I don't
I'll
know-
say the one weird thing that I was like, Rhaenyra, what are you doing here? Because that whole scene where they bring all of her potential riders and shove them on that pedestal with the dragons, and then they all leave, to me it felt a little off. It's like, if you really wanted to find which of these could be dragon riders and you wanted as many as possible, wouldn't you kind of like put them out there one at a time?
Yeah.
Let them burn rather than see them all burn and then you're done. Yeah, help me out, KJ.
Here's the thing, because this is also elements of horror. There was plenty of horror in Game of Thrones, and that whole sequence was a horror movie moment. You had Rhaenyra, who's, for all intents and purposes, our protagonist, and she's setting these dudes up to like assume godhood. It's like, watch me calm this beast. Like, it was the poster shot. She was standing right in front of the dragon. Who wouldn't want to try that? It was a carrot. That dragon was a carrot for, I'm gonna go, like, no, don't, right?
Yeah.
That was a horror movie moment. It was great.
It absolutely was, and you're right. They leaned into it, and it was great. And the chaos of it all was like in the middle of a Godzilla movie. Absolutely, people running around. I guess it was just more from like a strategic point of view. If you're really trying to find people, you could do one at a time. You might have even more dragon riders potentially. That was my thing, but whatever. That's like a nerdy nitpick. You're right. It was an effective like moment and really scary, and it kind of showed us maybe like the notion that even though Ulf is kind of a jackass and what's his name, Hammer, that like ultimately they were taken through like a really tough gauntlet and chosen of all of those people. It's like, okay, I can get with that. It's cool.
Well, and then the other Alan, I think, is the other. Is it Alan?
Adam.
That's
Adam.
Adam. I knew his name.
The first one.
Alan
I'm-
is his brother.
Okay, so well, yeah, they're both Lord Corlys' sons, bastards,
Mhm.
obviously. The whole thing of all of these people
Bastards.
having all these bastards, it's just ridiculous. But
So-
that
ahead.
whole sequence where the dragon chases him is very interesting because you can see that he's running from him. So I'm trying to figure out where in that point where the dragon goes, oh, maybe this is the person that I want to ride me. You would think the
Well-
dragon would want the person that wants to stand up, not the person that's running away. But I guess whatever for that dragon, right?
Yeah, I don't. They have yet to kind of explore that, and I hope they actually never do. I hope they never like use the word midichlorian basically and explain how the dragons choose their rider. Like, keep it mysterious. Like, is it blood?
that's fine.
Is it is it like who stands strong or whatever it is? Like, there's a little bit of a magic there, maybe a little bit of luck.
And that's kind of what this is missing versus Game of Thrones. There was a little bit of magic in there, and it kind of gave it a little bit more fantasy element.
Mm-hmm. But I love it. I love the three writers that they've given us. They sort of represent these different perspectives, but at the end of the day, they're all. Is it little people? Is that what they refer to them as? Because I'm mixing. It's like, or is that the toy line?
Lowborn.
Small folk.
Lowborn.
Thank you.
Small folk.
The small folk
yeah.
and the lowborn if you're like
Lowborn.
classy and an a-hole about it. But like
Right.
the small folk, it's like it's pretty cool because in this entire Game of Thrones thing, I'm really excited to spend more time with the small folk, especially when we know, and we fast forward, we know the end game is that a bastard ascends to essentially save the realm, right?
Yeah.
In Jon Snow. But like, I think it was really cool to kind of see the different, they built that up. We got to see Hugh like get to the point where his daughter was sick and they're super desperate, but he's like been earnest about playing the game with honor and like he knows his role. Then you've got someone like Ulf who's like, F this system, I don't care, everything, I'm just drunk, let's just hang out. Right. And then you've got the person who was rejected, who knows that he has, he has a place. Like he's seen his father kind of like, flaunt his wealth and everything. And he has to sit there and work on the boat and do all that kind of thing. And so it was kind of neat to see those three perspectives. And at the end of the day, they are now in this. I'm really curious to see how it all plays out. And can I just say, I don't even know his name because I hate him so much. What's Rhaenyra's son, who is a bastard himself?
Jacaerys?
Is it Jacaerys too? Oh, that's
Jacaerys, the one that's kind of like, he's kind of a tight ass.
Dude, that dude and his like crazy like snobbery of like,
he needs to calm down. Yeah.
Who are these guys? And the whole time we're like, whatever, bastard. Like it's hilarious.
I get it though. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Tony.
No, I get it with Jacaerys. It's like, okay, I get where he's coming from, but calm down. I mean, you got Ulf and no manners and just all happy to be in there and getting, all the things that, you're a dragon rider now. So, you get all the stuff that goes with it. And then he just can't, be chill. He's just a roughneck, you know what I mean? So then, and then there's Hugh Hammer. He's just trying to be cool. And like, they look like, they got the hair, for Targaryen blood or whatever, but it's like,
but he doesn't. And that's the part that gets him, right?
Yeah. And then she kind of puts them in their place and they shut up, just a little bit. Hey, use your manners here and all that stuff. I'm like, well, how would you feel? The dragon chose you. Hey, I got a dragon now. F all this.
And their dragons are bigger than Jason's dragons.
Yeah, exactly. And the way they chose him is crazy. It's cool how different it is because Hugh Hammer showed balls to his, and that's what made him get picked, or his blood too. Yeah. It's like you leave it like that, and the other one was scared shitless, but his dragon probably already knew that he had some blood, and he was playing with them. He was pushing him in the water, pushing him. Like, oh, he's already cool with him. So
what I want to add
crazy.
is that the dragons that Hugh Hammer and Ulfgar were Vermithor and Silverwing respectively, and they're not just full grown dragons, they're older dragons because apparently the previous king, apparently the previous king Jaehaerys and his queen at the time were the ones who had those two dragons.
Right.
Because at the beginning of the season, in the first episode, they talk about the dragons that looked over the wall and wouldn't fly any further. right? When they went to visit the Starks, right?
Mhm.
And those were the two dragons they were talking about. They were talking about Vermithor and Silverwing. So those are like old dragons. They were not hatched in the previous generation. They were hatched, several generations ago.
Older. Yeah.
Right. And I think Vermithor might be the one that's closest in size to Vagar.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
The
And I hear
closest one.
that's right. And Vagar's the largest living dragon after Balerion the Dread had died.
That,
Right. So
Hey Ken, I'm sending you something.
that
What are you
hoary
sending me?
bitch.
what are you sending me?
Who
I'm
calls him
sending you
her
a
that? The
chart
hoary
size
bitch.
of the dragons.
I think
I'll have a look at what you're sending.
Damon calls him that.
Are you going to share screens, KJ?
I can, but I just pinged you. But I can share screen if that's okay.
Yeah, you may as well do that. I'll stop sharing now, and then we can pop up whatever's on your screen. Oh, the dragon sizes. Yes, please.
Yes, that's
Please.
awesome. That'd be cool.
I'll have you
Alright.
talk right through this.
So here's the thing: Balerion, the last rider for Balerion was King Viserys, so that
Yes.
he could maintain that lineage from Aegon the Conqueror and whatnot. That
And
was
he only rode him
Balerion-
for less than a year. I heard
Yeah, right.
it was
right.
a short time.
So-
Yeah.
And that
But they had his skull
Balerion
down there, too,
skull-
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Nope, you're right. That's how I was just alluding that it had his skull down there.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. Like that's how massive Balerion was. It's like flying a 747. So Vagar
Yes.
is the closest to that.
C-130.
Let me go ahead and get in a little bit here. Right, so there's Balerion. There's Vagar. Meraxes, the cannibal. There's Vermithor right there.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Vermithor and Vagar, they can get down. I don't know who these two are. Right?
The cannibal is in the book. That's the one that like fights. I can't remember what it was. I think
They don't have
the
riders
cannibal
yet.
eats. I think the cannibal eats other hatchling
Dragons?
eggs. Other
That's
dragon
awesome.
eggs. Other dragon
Yeah.
eggs. I've heard of Meraxes. I forget. Oh, was Meraxes the original Prince Rhaenys's dragon? I think that's who it was. Like the very first Princess Rhaenys. Sorry, you're really testing my knowledge here, and I got toy stuck in my brain.
But
for-
here's the like the size 2, like the midweight, right? Like the middleweights.
Ah,
So
I was right.
Silverwing-
It was the first Queen Rhaenys's dragon. Totally guessed.
But here you have Silverwing, Dreamfire, Caraxes, so they can still get down. That's still a good
Yeah.
fight.
I mean,
If you're
yes.
watching UFC, that's still a good fight, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh god, they got real world animals for scale. Love it.
That's
Yes.
a blue whale, sperm whale, that kind of thing,
Ooh.
right?
Yeah.
That's how big these beasts are, right? And then when you had
Yes.
Drogon, they were young dragons, but they
Right.
still did a lot of damage, right? Like Viserion, Rhaegal, Drogon, they were small for their size, but They're-
They did scale up Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion.
They were still growing.
for the
Yeah.
for the show.
okay.
They did scale them up so that they were a bit bigger. Like they may have been closer to like maybe not quite sea smoke size, but
Well, you're like
maybe-
around this size? Yeah. Who
Yeah.
was the last dragon besides Bruce Leroy?
I don't know.
Bruce, I was gonna say that's Bruce Leroy, man. Okay.
Ah.
All right, I'm done. So,
Okay.
please, take it away.
yeah. So the big love it.
Oh shit!
Those
actually,
first 3 dragons.
Legit
are-
question though. Do you know, Ken, who the last dragon? Did we ever see it, or is that well after Jon Snow's
Is there a
time?
sequel? Is there a sequel book out?
I
Is there like a
don't.
sequel short
Last
story or something like that?
Dragon- The Last Dragon, Game of Thrones.
'Cause they're
I
doing
don't
a
know.
Jon Snow show.
It was
That Jon
agreeing-
Snow was going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah, the Last Dragon belongs.
You got to
Oh, you
go.
know what? The Last
Sorry.
Dragon was not after Daenerys's dragons. That was the Last Dragon before her dragons.
Well,
Got
you know
it.
the glow. You got the glow. You go. I'm sorry. I'll stop.
Yeah.
I'll stop. I'll
Got
stop.
it. No, got it. So that was the last that they saw until Daenerys brought the dragons.
I'm
back.
just looking it up now. It's from
Cool.
Aegon the Third.
That's right, because I remember that, and I remember I love that part of Game of Thrones where they talked about how like essentially the dragons kept shrinking, and
Yeah.
like the magic
Yeah.
was going away. That maybe they were being, they were responding. I think it was in House of the Dragon season 1 too, where they mentioned, or they hinted that maybe it was about they didn't like the infighting of the dragon riders, kind of a thing, as a result of
Mhm.
that. So
Yeah.
Anyway.
And the dragon pit's basically useless now at that point in time. But yeah, those first 3 dragons, Balerion, Vagar, and Meraxes were the original king, King Aegon, and his two sister wives. They I think Visenya rode Vagar and Rhaenys. The first Rhaenys rode Meraxes. Again, this is really, really testing my knowledge of a book I read like 6 years ago.
That's
All
what
right,
we love you, Ken. Flex that brain.
I'm what my old coworkers used to call a bottomless pit of useless knowledge, because I'd be like, "Okay, Ken, change the spare tire on the car." I don't know how to do that. I just know that it's a flat tire. Okay, go talk about the book of blah 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 or the comic book. Okay, cool. An hour later, Ken's still going. The tire has been changed and everyone's gone inside. So, anyway.
Next question: who was at the end that it wasn't Bela? Who was the one that was that
Rhaena.
Sheep Stealer?
Rhaena, yes, she was going after Sheep Stealer.
Yeah,
Sheep Stealer was the one that was yelling at her, and she was like,
In the veil.
Okay, that's
Yes.
Sheep Stealer eating. Okay, what was
It's
her
Steel
name?
Sheeps. It literally called Sheep Stealer. Oh, the girl,
No,
Rhaena.
yeah,
Princess Rhaena.
That's
the
Rhaena.
names are very similar. They're very similar.
Okay,
Yeah,
'cause I get her mixed
Rhaena-
up with Bela. I get her mixed up.
Bela has the
Bela-
dragon and
Bela's
is
got Moon
betrothed to
Dancer.
Jace. Moon Dancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
All
we
right.
didn't see her jump on Sheep Stealer yet. Just that's the end. Right?
No, they're going to change that from the book, because I think there's another character named Nettles in the book who actually takes Sheep
Right.
Stealer. But I
that
think
sounds familiar.
they tend to merge certain characters. Like even in the original Game of Thrones, they combined Sansa's story arc in seasons 5 and 6 with somebody else. A character they just didn't do. And they also one of the last significant Hightowers, Geralt Hightower, they combined his character with somebody else. He was in that scene in the Tower of Joy when the two Kingsguard died at the hands of Lord Stark. He wasn't the guy with the two swords. He was the other guy, but they combined him with another character. So they do a lot of that for the purpose of the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'd heard about Nettles through some other YouTube person talking about him. But in general, I'm curious, Ken, as someone who's read the books, or I don't know if you talk to other people who have, how do those, like the book readers, as if we're illiterate, but the folks who've read the books, how do those highborn, how do they respond when the shows do that? Is there like a significant fans like that's not how it happened?
I
Or are they
see
good with
less.
it?
I see less backlash compared to, say, Tolkien's.
Okay.
There is a little bit of, they did this in the book, they could have done this. I guess it's passable. So when I talk to people, that's what I get, because there's no big like Tom Bombadil omission, for example, right?
Right.
Or like when you go back to Lord of the Rings and you go to the Battle of Helm's Deep, where you have that one Uruk-hai with the torch kind of jump and break the wall, as opposed to coming in through the creek. People generally, it's more like that when people understand that they needed the big explosion at Helm's Deep, right? Even though that didn't happen in the book, but it's a good addition. There's more of that, I find, in the Game of Thrones House of the Dragons universe among the people I talk to, right? Because Game of Thrones has yet to really omit a Tom Bombadil type of Tolkien character, which a lot of people said was blasphemy. But when I was reading the Tom Bombadil chapters, I was like, this just keeps going on and on and on. Get this guy off the page. But I'm also more a sucker for good dialogue, give us a reward. Good dialogue, give us a big reward. Right? So, but a lot of people, they understand the dialogue. They'll wait for however long it takes to get that big reward. Right. While we're on the topic of HBO, those are the same people who think that The Wire is the greatest television show ever. Right.
I love The Wire. Come on.
I do too. I think it's the best written television show ever with the realism in it.
Yeah.
I would rank it in the top 10, maybe even top 5. I just find that it lacks a little bit of that Hollywood reward. You know, they don't do any cliffhanger endings. Right. But the thing is, that show is so tightly written. There's no wasted lines or wasted scenes. There's not a wasted second in any of those episodes. Yeah. I'm getting segued here, but
yeah, we gotta do a top 5 episode. I'm gonna invite everyone on for a top 5 TV episode on Black Genghis Live.
Episodes or TV series of all time?
TV shows. Your top 5. Give me your top
shows.
5.
Oh, jeez.
Damn, I go back to the 80s.
but I don't want to. I'm not hijacking this.
Yeah.
2000s re-release of Battlestar Galactica.
Man, don't get me started on Battlestar Galactica. But with House of the Dragon, what I like is that it's its own telling, right? They gave themselves a device that this could have been an unreliable narrator that gave you fire and blood, and this is like either a truer version or this is just an alternative telling, right? Same thing with Game of Thrones. And that's why it takes George so long to do those books. He treats it like gardening, right? He has a lot of Dance of Dragons written, but it's just going to take him time to finish everything out because he still has Essos. He still has Aegon III that's in it. He still has all these other characters and all these other veins that the show didn't have to deal with. And frankly, D&D, Dan and David, should have been creative enough to still give those last 2 seasons what they needed instead of just rushing like that. I feel like if BBC were doing House of Dragon, we'd be getting like 16, 20 episodes. And like it's like what Ken said. Ken likes the Hollywood reward. If BBC was doing this, you'd get a Hollywood reward every 4 episodes. That's basically it. Aaron, thank you. Will we get the background noise?
Yeah, probably.
Would you mind muting until you speak? Thank you very much.
It's I think you nailed it. And so and Aaron was naming earlier that like so much of A Song of Ice and Fire was based on real world history. So G.R.R. Martin is very much like, yes, he loves fantasy, but part of his whole project in writing a big fantasy world was to truly sort of marry it with his real world historian sensibility, right? So real world history, you kind of said it, like there's a faulty narrative in the book version, we know that, but this show is either a truer or maybe an alternate viewing. What I appreciate about the show is it at least tries to take that kind of like historian perspective and show us there's actually a lot more going on than the whiz bang dragon stuff. Then you can't even just say, well, Aemon was a dick. Like, no, because we got to see why he was and how he became that and all the decisions that happened along the way, which is very real world, right? We get to see even the conversation. I mean, fast forwarding now to the end of this season, the conversation between Alicent and Rhaenyra, like that's stuff that no maester was there to witness, that they couldn't record in the history, but we got to see it and got to see like, wow, this is like full circle with season 1 of like, they kind of were playing their roles and kind of set the stage for this battle. And now the big climax of season 2 wasn't necessarily a whiz bang battle, but to me it was this like, oh crap, the reckoning between these 2 friends who had 2 very different approaches to life, maybe more than friends from one person's perspective. Like there was all this tension in there that could have, that I think it was such a great way for me to end the season. I get that maybe it wasn't the big explodey ending, but given the weight of that conversation and sort of its significance, I thought it was such a cool way to end it, while also giving us a little bit of that, can't forget that Damon vision, which tied it to Game of Thrones. So like, I think they're doing the best. I don't know. I appreciate their balance again of the sort of like really wanting to tell something with weight while also giving us some Hollywood flash to keep us hooked. So
do we think that the season could, sorry, KJ, were you going to say something first?
Yeah, I just want to say that Damon's vision, if for all intents and purposes, was equal to Aegon's vision that he had back in the days of Old Valyria. Like that, what we saw may not necessarily been the Song of Ice and Fire, but it was another Song of Ice and Fire. And that's humongous.
It is huge.
Right? Yeah.
Let's get into that before we end.
Let's
I just want to lodge that. Maybe we can come back to it. Let's talk about Visions and Helena at some point. But anyways, you were going to say, Ken.
Yes. I was just going to ask, like, who here was either unsatisfied or satisfied with the ending? Because I know for me, I was kind of hoping we would get the Battle of the Gullet, the Navy Sea battle this season. Because you have to shape up a lot for next season. You still have to do the battle above the God's Eye, which I'm not sure if that's going to be like a massive battle or if it's going to be a battle going below, but then a big duel in the sky.
See, I don't even know what these things are, Ken.
Well, the battle
that's from the books, huh? Yeah, that's great. No, that's
cool.
The
Gullet is the sea battle between Corlys Valerian's fleet and the new army that Tywin Lannister has put together from the Free Cities.
Got
right?
it.
The triarchy, I guess. And then the battle above the God's Eye is supposed to be the showdown between Aemond and Damon.
Damon. Got it.
Right. That's
cool.
why
Atlantis-
Helena
Atlantis has
says
got some babies to make.
yes. She says something about the God's Eye when she's talking
Yeah.
to Aemond. So there you go.
So who's satisfied? Unsatisfied?
I know you're satisfied. You're happy with anything, with pretty
Who,
much
me?
anything these guys do. Are you were happy with the ending, weren't you?
Oh, so like my approach is like so people say, oh, you're just happy all the time. It's like, no, I'm not.
I
But-
like you happy all the time. Don't worry about it.
But here's the deal. Like, and I said this 2 years ago when we were talking. Like, I can see a lot of people get frustrated and critique, but as someone who was born in 1976, going to be 48 on Wednesday, folks. Like, man, I was
Baby.
growing
Happy
up when
birthday.
thank you. I often felt like I was the only person in the room who was thinking about Tolkien or Star Wars. Fast forward, like you got to work real hard to keep up with all of the cool nerdy things that are out there.
You really do.
So I'm constantly blown away by that. And so as someone who's been involved in creative projects myself too, I don't like to I recognize how much work goes into this stuff, and I'm constantly impressed by what they do. It's not all bangers. It's not all perfect, and so I try and come from that place of sort of appreciation, I guess, and that comes off as like always positive. But I will say I was absolutely satisfied with what we got. Could I have used some other stuff? Sure, I probably would have enjoyed that too. But like I was by no means dissatisfied and been like, man, that sucked. No way, man. Like I was so that helps couch my happiness again.
All right.
Others?
Anyone else?
I kind of parrot that. It's just I know what to expect, but I thought Dance of the Dragons was going to happen right then and there. Now we got to wait. So, but I'm like, okay, you got me hooked. That's your job, to get us hooked. And, I want to see more of Adam of Hull. You know what I mean? On Sea Smoke. I want to see all of it. I want to see all of it now. So they got me hooked. But it's crazy that when I kind of knew that Allison was going to make one last try. I'm like, oh, you're coming around now because you got kicked out of the council. You know what I mean? Now I'm like, hey, and she took the queen took the words out of her mouth. It's too late now. I went to you. You know what I mean? I went to you and I tried to stop all this shit. And you were just basically still trying to be a B word to me. You know what I mean? So it's too late now, girl. It's coming down. So it's almost like whatever we had, we're cool, but it's done. The men are on their routes and they're getting ready to rain it down. It's get ready or get out. It's bad. I felt bad for her a little bit, but the shit she's done and all that stuff, it's like, I don't know if I like them or hate them. It's like all of them's got crazy quirks to them. So
well, it's good that she's kind of got her full circle comeuppance already, and so you get to see that kind of arc that we kind of missed with. We never really saw that in Game of Thrones. We didn't see that kind of, oh, you got all your power taken away. That never happened because it was always whoever was there was keeping power until they were killed.
Yeah,
they never had to come up its moment.
You had that with Cersei with her walk of shame, but then she was right back in the
exactly
right
so
after.
it meant
right?
nothing.
And then she went and then she killed people who put her through that.
Yeah.
Right?
So
I like that, but I
really
can't
in the
stand
narrative.
her.
Other folks satisfied, unsatisfied?
Anyone else? Satisfied, dissatisfied?
I'm kind of neutral. I mean, I'm kind of middle of the road on it. It's good, but I'm getting a lot of vibes of we're rehashing stories. We're just putting different names in different places. And I don't know if that's a George Martin problem or if that's the writers and developers problem, but you start seeing these characters that fit neatly into these nice little pegs for other characters that we've already seen from Game of Thrones. So I want to see if there's some variance there, if there's something, it's kind of like Aegon very much reminds me of Joffrey. Lord Larys reminds me of Littlefinger. There's all these little characters that are kind of set in those parts, and I want to see them do something different with that. if that makes sense.
Yeah, Kristen Cole has a bit of a Jamie Lannister thing going on at
Ooh,
times.
Kristen
Exactly.
Cole.
Yeah, I feel like
Very
we
much
could go on like Alicent and Sansa, and yeah, there's a lot of.
Is she
these.
Sansa or is she Cersei? I mean,
But
I mean,
like Jamie.
it's a mix, but in terms of like well, anyway, but I hear that. I totally hear that. I think, yeah. KJ,
I was very, very satisfied.
nice.
I feel like they should probably do more episodes. Like that
Mhm.
whole thing with Lannister and Essos, that could have been a vein that was going through all the other episodes, right? So like comic relief and that sort of thing. Meeting with the Triarchy.
yes.
I think it's, if anything, they're rushing. That's what it feels like to me, even with all the
Really?
intrigue and yeah,
Really? Wow.
yeah,
okay.
because I want to know more about Rhaena in the Vale. I want to know more about, these people's lives. Adam of Hull and his brother, the Valerian bastards, they could have had an entire episode to themselves. And Game of Thrones used to do that all the time. Every so often, you would just have an episode that just stayed here, that just stayed with these people, like that just stayed in King's Landing, that just stayed like with everything else. And House of Dragons is zooming. We only got 8 episodes. I feel like next season and the season after that, only 2 more seasons. They're probably going to be 8 episodes. They may do what Game of Thrones did. I think the last season of Game of Thrones, correct me if I'm wrong, was only 6 episodes.
It was
It's short.
It was.
Yeah.
And in season 7 before that was only 7 episodes.
Yes.
That's
yes.
really, and kid, we talked about this before. I view that as one long, disappointing season split into 2 parts.
I like 7. 8,
Mhm.
I think, is still good up to the Night's King battle. It's really only the last half of 8 for me that drops off. But I will say this: George Martin has said that it would take 40 episodes to properly tell the story. So I wonder if we're going to get a 5th season, because if seasons are only going to be 8 episodes long, right? And like I said, while I do think that it was a good season, I really felt that the 8th episode was more like a penultimate episode rather than a season finale. That's kind of how I felt about it.
Yeah, because I hated what happened with Jon Snow. It's just like, but we're gonna get a Jon Snow show that might make up for it.
I think it's been canceled.
Oh, has it?
I heard it's been canceled.
I heard what KJ heard.
Damn.
But he's checking. I can see him.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Computer.
That's my man behind the curtain. KJ, my man behind the curtain.
So yeah, it was scrapped. They spent $30 million
Oh
in a pilot episode.
man.
They spent $30 million and then they scrapped it. And I think only because they're going all in on prequel era, because those are stories that are finished that have endings. We're going to have House of Dragon. We're going to have Dunk and Egg, Night of the Seven Kingdoms. HBO spent a lot of money on the Naomi Watts First Men show. That was like 25,000 years before Game of Thrones, right?
Oh wow, I didn't know that was coming, but because you mentioned
no,
it, I do have this up.
Yeah.
This is Dunk and Egg, right?
Yeah, this is going to be Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and I guess this is going to be a more personal story. So it's not going to have. I mean, Song of Ice and Fire is largely, I guess, what you would call high fantasy, right? I guess this is a bit more like, I know there's a bit of a difference between high fantasy and sword and sorcery is a bit more personal. So I think this is going to feel a bit more sword and sorcery-esque. And I know sorcery and wizardry in Game of Thrones is a bit more sparing than it is in other worlds, so to speak. But I am looking forward to this. But I think it's going to lack the scope of what we have. Having said that, it seems like they're going to be able to do episodes more easily, because you won't have as many big battles, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, this is the only reason I know that. So I tried to read the first book of A Song of Ice and Fire, never got back to it. And this, I read the sort of graphic novel adaptation of it, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a fun little story. It's definitely, as you say, very different, much smaller, but I could see it being fun on the screen. And I'm hoping, just as they're doing now with House of the Dragon, that they'll still kind of try to show you how this informs the larger universe, because it does, as far as.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is Sir Duncan the Tall, right? And then the kid that's in the trailer, which is Aegon, who just goes by Egg. He's like Aegon the Fifth, I think. His brother, a lot of people may not know, was actually Aemon Targaryen, who was the Maester at the Wall of Game of Thrones. Yeah, so the elderly Maester who kind of like coaches Jon a little bit. He's actually the older brother of Aegon in this series, and he goes to the Wall so that his brother can take the throne because he's the older brother.
which is really cool because John is what Aegon, if he's what is he, like the 6th or the 7th? What is John?
He would be the
He's
6th if that's the case.
Aegon Targaryen the 6th, which is cool because I don't think he realized that he was working with his,
basically his great grand,
right? So
granduncle,
wild,
granduncle.
Anyways.
Right. So trying to see how many generations there are. Is there 4 generations? Yeah, I guess there is.
Like, and I've heard someone say recently, like, their frustration in response to the D23 Star Wars stuff, and then I was also talking about Rings of Power, and the person expressed like frustration that they seem to be just like wanting to build all these things, and I'm told, like, tie it all together, build these universes. Man, I'm the exact opposite. I don't know if like Marvel Universe indoctrinated me as a kid, but man, I loved that I was focused on Uncanny X-Men, but I knew that somewhere out there the Avengers were doing a thing, right? And I loved that there was this whole world. So I'm really excited that they're trying to like mine these different stories. Basically, it's funny that I say that because it was the MCU who really was like, no, we can actually do this with film and television as well, right? In their launch of the mega franchise that is now the MCU, based on a bunch of different characters. I love that they're doing that with Game of Thrones and like going like, hey, let's go to this moment in history and tell you about this character. Let's go to this moment. My big thing though is that I hope they continue to do help us understand how it all kind of informs one another. So anyway, I'm into it. That person was really upset about it. They're like, oh, they beat it to death. Just give us something new. And I kind of understand that, but I'm a death over breath kind of guy. So,
well, and the world building is what's essential for long-term health of anything.
mm-hmm.
If you can't build the world in any way, people are just going to tune out. If you don't have that meaningfulness, what does it mean? Where does it go? And I think a lot of the pacing is suffered because of that this season. Because we don't know where the pieces are going all the time. Now it kind of coalesces at the end, but is that a day late, $1 short kind of thing for some people?
Oh, fair enough. Well, any other big closing thoughts? I know.
Could we talk about the Helena thing real quick and connecting it all?
Yes, let's do that.
So I think, Aaron, you might be right in terms of like for some people, not showing your hand a little bit more to help them understand how this connects to Game of Thrones might have lost some people. But speaking for me, I love that because then it makes I love the vision that they showed at the end. And I forget who it was. I think it's KJ asking, is that a Song of Fire? Is it the Song of Fire that he sees, or the same vision as Aegon saw? I'm going to assume that it's all the same because really there's sort of like one thing out there trying to like, it's like the universe, through prophecy and magic is trying to warn people that, hey, you got to get your stuff together. Otherwise, all of humanity is going to disappear because of winter. Mm-hmm. And so I love seeing that vision. And now with Helena, I wonder, cause she's been talking to people at different points and she's been seeing visions. There's a couple of scenes where she's, we come across her. I think Aemon tries to find her and she's out like in the middle of the night, seemingly talking to someone. I wonder if she's talking to either, what is his name? Either Bran or who was Bran? What's his title that he sort of takes over?
Three-Eyed Raven.
Yes. Three-Eyed Raven. Was she talking to Bran? Was she talking to the Three-Eyed Raven before him? What's his name? Ming the Merciless, side out. Right. Is she actively talking to him the way that Damon is talking to all these people that we see him? Like, so when we see Damon in his own little world and we get to see what he's seeing, are we kind of getting a sense of what Helena's going through? Right? Like in her mind constantly, is she seeing visions because she can access that part of the world? And that stuff is, I want to see that. Like, I almost want to see at some point at the end of it, like, show me the whole vision and show me how Helena fits into it. Is she hanging out with Bran? Is she, are they having conversations about the best way to like try and line up events so that we can actually defeat the Night's King? Yep. I love that. I love it.
Huh. Some deep storytelling there.
I love it.
Wow.
I don't
So
know,
you've got
just
your
wondered.
your 2-year anniversary stream at what time is it? Is it 4 o'clock today?
Oh, it's just a weekly news thing that I do at 3:45. I do the news every week, but since it's the 2 anniversary, I'm a try and lighten the load, give away some stuff, and just celebrate. So
And you're on with Adam from Highly Articulated a little bit later as well for his weekly stream.
So at 2:05, I don't know if that the thumbnail's been made. I've been gently trying to hint at that, but yeah, around 2:05, it's over on Adam's Highly Articulated channel. We do AWOC Talk Live Monkey Business. So it'll be me, Adam, and Jason again, and we're going to be revealing some more progress, some more items, and then 3:45, come over to the Brick Something channel. Check out some geeky things that I've been itching to share and literally giving away stuff. So
I see. Awesome. Well, everybody check that out later today. Paynes, do you have anything coming up or no? Or you just
no, other than the clubhouse for like 30 minutes. Probably not for a while.
Okay, that's fine. I know you'll get resettled back in when the time comes. And I know you used to do toy therapy every week, but now it's kind of like on and off thing. So okay, cool. What about you, KJ?
I mean, well, we got a pretty major league announcement, but I think I want to wait. Yeah, Tony and I are bringing back Welcome to the Terradrome, and it's going to be simulcast on both Tony's Figs and Black Genghis. So you're on YouTube. You can go to either channel and watch that. We have a very special first guest, Gun Bunny Customs.
Yeah.
And we got some stuff planned. I'm going to be making a G.I. Joe Retaliation rock block using these and Mezco pieces from G.I. Joe. And I was going to surprise Tony with this, but I'm going to go ahead and just do this now. And I'm also, later on, second episode planned, and it could change, but I'm going to be making a Night Force Airborne inspired by the 60th anniversary Halo jumper that basically uses Airborne. And I'm going to hilariously try to make a Night Force face paint head sculpt without making it look hella racist. So we'll see.
Go for it.
So that's what. So we got big plans for Terradrome, and I'm really excited. Plus, I'll be going live later on this week, Thursday, for the next episode of Black Genghis Live.
Awesome. Does that cover Tony's update too, or you got some customs you want to show us, Tony, at some point?
Oh, I'm gonna on the show, I'll probably be trying to paint one of those from Joe Fest. You know, the Sergeant Slaughter.
Custom you got to go to the custom class. That's cool.
No, DJ 5-Ash did, and he said he screwed it up, and he asked if I could, work some magic on it. I said, let me give it a shot. My back's feeling a lot better. So I'm like, it's been sitting here for a while. I've been able to really sit down for a long time, but now I'm jumping back into it. And I just dropped another video earlier today. It's just some mods I did to the 3-pack, the Cabal 3-pack of Marvel Legends with Iron Patriot, Taskmaster, and Doom. So that's up right now on Tony's Figs YouTube.
That's cool. Awesome. So everyone's got something, or maybe pending something, or maybe a return of sorts. Yeah. Brian Hickey from Total Toy Books, who's doing the reprints of the Battle Action Force comics from the 1980s, has asked if I would help him promote his current offer, which is 3 compendiums for the price of 2, and those should land in either December, maybe January. So that's what I've got going next week. So hopefully people can tune in. It might be back-to-back weekends of these TKO live streams, which I've not done in a very long time. And so that's probably what's going on next week. So I may or may not have a pre-produced video next week. I mean, I'm kind of finding that if I do a live stream, I don't need to necessarily do a pre-produced video, and that gives me time to go and kind of like build the backlog worth of stuff. So what I was showing Brick and Aaron earlier before we went live is that I do have this playset out for review at the moment. So I mean, Tony, awesome. you actually shared my what is it? My photo from Instagram.
Yes.
There, because a Boulder Hill review is actually, it's already done. I just uploaded it to the back catalog this morning to kind of throw it into the queue. So I've got like an 11, 12-minute review of Boulder Hill from the vintage vintage line.
So you'll be
Mass.
seeing that sometime in the next 5 years.
Yes, sometime in the next 5 years, which Aaron knows when I send him like my list of unlisted things. He's just like, that was filmed like 2 months ago, Ken. I'm like, yeah,
Dude,
I guess it was.
Respect, man. I got nothing backlog. It's just like it comes as it comes. So I respect that. I love it.
Sometimes you got to time it as well, because
Yeah.
if you have a lengthy premiere, like those who've watched my history of Transformers in the 80s, I've super cut that into one long, like 2.5 hour stream. If I want to be in the live chat, it's better that I schedule it for a time where I can be near a computer.
Sure.
Right. The thing though with the premieres, it's getting harder to kind of schedule because everyone's live at some point in time.
Yeah.
Right. Like if I look at my phone or my computer notifications, somebody's live at the moment. And with premieres, people tend to think, oh, it's a premiere. It's not live right now. I can file that for later. Right. So sometimes I don't even premiere it. I just throw it up. Right. I've actually even had Payne's comment before. I didn't see the premiere for this one. I'm like, yeah, it's only 6 minutes long. There's no point doing a premiere. Or something
cool,
to
though.
that effect. But yeah, I got a lot coming down the pipe.
You're productive.
Got a history of Visionaries coming up. That's already filmed. Me and Andrew from GenXToysGeek Toys actually collaborated on that. And me and Hans Chow just finished History of Cops. So
Nice.
that's also in the backlog. So yeah, lots and lots coming down the pipeline. And if only summer would end and we can get back to the good weather, because I don't like heat. I'll be in a better mood. Yeah, here in Arizona. I mean,
113.
It's 113 today.
Not today, but it's been up there.
Goodness,
Like 108.
It gets to like 88 here, and I start whining. So, legitimately whining.
Yeah, but Tony's is the dry heat, so let's be honest. 108 and dry, not the
You
same
get
as
out and it's
104
great.
and the humidity of 95%. So
Can't do
two
it.
different animals completely.
Fair enough.
I was dying at Joe Fest. Not that much. That wasn't that bad.
Oh, we were in the hotel the whole time.
Yeah, well, we were walking up and down the roads looking for places to eat.
Oh, that's because you were following Travis. If you just stayed at the hotel where
I
Ken
was following Travis. You hear that, KJ? I was following Travis.
You picked up on that. I totally tried to slide that in. I tried to slide that in as subtly as possible.
You dirty rat.
Yeah. Well, anyone else got any closing thoughts or anything they want to share? Or
thank you for having me on. Whenever I can hang out with any of these dudes in this panel, it's always a great time. I want to see some more Cobra Law customs from this guy right here, from Aaron. Brick, once again, happy birthday, dude. Many happy returns to you. Thanks for the vibes and everything else. Tony, my Terradrome bro, you know I got love for you, dude. Take care of your back, because I will cancel this show for your back if that's what it takes.
I'm good. I'm popping here and there.
And Ken, you're a consummate gentleman. I'm willing to talk anything from shows to recipes. You do a cooking show, call me, man. I'm there. Cooking with Ken, episode 1. I'm there.
Hell yeah.
Oh, people have asked, like, if you run out of toy content, what are you going to cover? I probably won't cover cooking because I can't cook to save my life. I mean, unless you want to talk about just doing like eggs, scrambled eggs is about the best.
You want to talk about alcohol?
Oh God, yeah. You saw me at Joe Fest. Yeah. I mean, Brick, we've met twice, but neither time was I drinking. But Tony witnessed the stories of what Ken does to stay sane.
I've experienced it, online and seen it. Yeah, I know you're capable.
Oh yeah, the time I jumped into the wrong car and then showed up on.
It's a very happy drunk.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, ever since you noticed y'all pointed out the grease thumb I had with pizza, I've had pizza since then. I eat that with a knife and fork now because I can't get over the grease thumb thing. I didn't know grease thumb was actually a word, right? Yeah, so now I go up my pizza with a knife and fork because I can't get it. I can't get the image out of my head because I don't remember that particular moment.
How you doing, Sarge?
Basically, what it was. Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm happy to cover more Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon stuff. I mean, this isn't one of the topics people come to this channel for. Having said that, if I was to do more of it, it is kind of a evergreen kind of topic. I use that word a lot.
Evergreen.
Yeah.
Well, to tie it in, I'm hoping that we do see more toys at some point, because when you show those dragons, Oh man, like, can you imagine even if they did smaller scale just to get us like a bunch of dragons and riders? So maybe at some point you'll be able to merge the worlds a little bit more.
Mhm.
Those
We all have
Diamond
our own head
Diamond
canon.
selections
So.
are coming. Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, it's ripe for a toy line, is it not?
Big time.
So, I mean,
Especially now.
3-0 has done some in the 1/6
They
scale.
do
I had a
have
few of
some-
those. Yeah,
yeah.
I had a few of those back in the day, but I got rid of them. I sent them to toy traders and got some trade credit in.
Yeah, there's
But I
some great
miss those
third-party
toys.
stuff. Oh,
Yes. No, it's fine.
there's great third-party stuff on the way. White Walkers, Kingsguard, a lot of cool stuff. Go to 5K Toys or Toys Metaverse. You can find some cool stuff that's on the way from third-party import.
Yeah,
people.
speaking of third party, and I'm only going to show this because Ace got a laugh of this, and so did Steve. But this is what I said. You know, if I ever get fired from what do you call it, Delta 17, this is my plan. If I ever get fired from if Steve ever terminates our shareholders agreement, this is my backup. This is my
Delta
backup
71.
by Ramen Toy. Is what
By
I was
Ramen.
told. Right. And Ace told me he found it funny, but he said he usually does franchises that are only 30 years old, and we never have to worry about something like this. And I'm just like,
yeah,
hey,
you need to transpose the letters of Delta too, and just make it at letters.
that's what when I showed it to Allison Troy, that's what she said. Sorry, my camera went out of focus.
Yeah,
My camera went
mine.
out of focus. Sorry.
71.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ramen
Atlas
Toys
71.
presents Luminaries. And they have,
Bravo
like, actual
17.
mirrors.
See, man, now I'm totally doing the world building thing and thinking what happened to Delta 18 through 70. And like,
Right.
You do know the reason why the number 17 is there, right?
I don't.
Okay. Does anyone?
I forgot. I think I forgot.
Yeah. Oh,
I knew
Tony,
though.
you might have been there when Matt from Toy Addicts interviewed me, and I explained it there, but I did it kind of quickly. So
Yeah.
the 17th letter of the alphabet is the
Yes.
letter Q, and Q clearance is the highest level of clearance in the government. So that's why it's called 17. I asked Steve the same
Got
question
it.
back in like
Oh,
2021,
man.
right? And I was like, do I need to write the story about what happened to Delta 16 and how they all got wiped out? He's like, no, I'll explain it later. And then he kind of got me into that, and now he has me explaining it to the rest of the world. All right, then.
Gotcha.
Before I go, shout out to WraithMace. You've been a patron and a channel member for a very, very long time. He's got a medical procedure coming up later this week, so we wish him the best. It's not, I mean, people know about it, but it's not my place to say too much about it. But he has been public about it. So hope to hear from you soon. And but yeah, prayers are with you. You'll be okay. Yeah, and shout out to this guy Joe Recondo as well, because he's been pumping Delta 17 at his local toy shows.
Nice.
As well, and to Gazz for throwing all the links, even though what do you call it? I don't even do these streams regularly anymore, but he makes sure he throws everyone's links in the description below. So yeah, and to all y'all here on the panel, and happiest of birthdays for Brick later this week, and
Already
Aaron,
started, man. Thank you.
and Aaron, hopefully you're back streaming live regularly again, and to the return of Welcome to the Terrordrome. So yeah, all right, everyone. Hopefully some of you can catch this on the replay. Otherwise, we'll talk again when season 3 is over. I don't know how this is gonna work. So.
Why
Was that
not?
2 years from now? 2026? All right. Make a date.
Yeah, we'll celebrate your birthday then too.
Okay.
It'll be a milestone. So
Yeah. 50,
All right.
baby. Half a century.
all the links in the description below, and goodbye at some point when the button actually